Hey everyone, today I'm working on a Nissan Altima and I'm going to show you how to change out your dash gauge cluster. You might have one that the odometer stopped working or one of the other gauges aren't working correctly, so you want to swap it out. They're really not too hard to do. Let's go ahead and get started. So this car here is an 04. Yours might be a little bit different. Usually none of them's that hard to change out. So you'll see this cover that's sitting on top of the gauge. This cover basically just pops straight up. You can see right here where it's got little clips that just pull right up and out off from the dash. So you'll see that there'll be a couple of Phillips screws, one right here and one right over here. There's also two more underneath the cover. So if you look at this little rubber piece underneath here, you want to get some type of pick or something and pick it away from the gauge cluster. And they usually will pop off pretty quickly. Just be careful not to tear it or break it. And whenever you push that down like that, you'll see back in there that it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but yeah, right there, if you look way down in there, you see this Phillips screw. So you need to get a really long Phillips screwdriver and get it down in there. Hopefully it's a magnetized one so the screw doesn't fall down in there. Do the same thing with this side. You have another, whenever you pull this off like that, you'll see down in there that there's another screw. Right there, that you'll need to get the screwdriver on to get it pulled out. Now if you don't have a magnetized screwdriver, you can get a magnetizer like this. Most of the local parts stores have it, or you can get it off from one of the tool trucks and just slide the screwdriver back and forth on there, and it'll magnetize the tip of the Phillips for you. Go down here and take the 3 screws out and then pop the cover up. All you gotta do is kind of squeeze right here, and I'll pull that cover up and make it easy to take off. Once you get that off, it'll give you more access to take the screws out. Now once you get the bottom screws out and you get the top screws out, then the gauge cluster will come out pretty easily. Now whenever you get these from the salvage yard, a lot of times whoever's pulling them don't want to take the time to pull them properly, so you'll get them with the bottom tabs down there broke off, because they don't, while they're taking any of this off, they just start pulling and yanking on it and it breaks the bottom tabs off. So they will still bolt in using just the top tabs. It's just that your gauge cluster ends up being loose on the bottom. So once you get all the screws out, you'll be able to pull the gauge outward, spin it to the side, and then come back here and release the electrical connector for it. Like that, so it'll squeeze connector. And go ahead and remove your gauge cluster out of the vehicle. I'm going to show you right here. This is the one I just pulled out of the vehicle, and you can see the tabs on the bottom. This is one that came from a salvage yard, same gauge cluster. Now look right here. You see the bottom tabs are broke? That's because they didn't take the time to unbolt it on the bottom to take that little piece out and get them out. All they did was wiggle it and it broke the tabs off. So most of the time whenever you get the donor gauge cluster, it'll just have the piece like this, and you'll want to remove these screws out and then the 2 screws up here to take this plastic piece off in order to transfer it to the donor cluster. get that loose, you can come up here and disconnect a little wiring clip on the back right there, and then the old cluster will be loose. And you take the new cluster, bring it up here. So if you happen to get one that the salvage yard broke the tabs off on the bottom, you know, the tab should be right in there, just like the original right here, then there's an easy fix for it. So you don't have to worry about it. Just take a screwdriver, lightly pull up on the tabs of the back cover all the way around. And you'll see the front cover come off. Be careful not to hit your gauges. You don't want to bend the needles or anything. The whole assembly will come out just like that. And then do the same thing with your donor. Be careful not to break these tabs. Just take your time. Might need to get a screwdriver down in there to separate it. Take the back cover off. Take your new cover that has the good tabs. The electrical connector. Line it up. Get it over. You'll see these little studs right here to go into these holes on the back of the gauge panel, basically the computer board, and then make sure that your connector right here is lined up, and just slowly work the back into place just like that, and then start snapping it all in. So now I just fixed the tabs on the donor gauge cluster, so now I'm able to go ahead and put the face back on, putting the odometer push button into the hole, slide that down right there, get all the screws back into it. You don't want to crank down on these screws because you'll crack the plastic. Go and reconnect your electrical. So now you got good tabs on the bottom and you're ready to reinstall your gauge cluster. So when you go get your gauge cluster back in, just do it reverse of how you took it out. Get the cluster up here, get to the back side where the harness is, and reconnect it. The harness is kind of short, so it's kind of hard to show you where I'm reconnecting it at. Go ahead and make sure it's clicked in all the way, and then go ahead and set your gauge cluster down in the correct position. Once you get it down in the correct position, then you're simply reinstalling all the bolts that you already pulled out from earlier. So once you get all your screws back in and tightened down, again, you don't want to crank down on them because you'll break the plastic. Just get them nice and snug. Then you can go ahead and reinstall the little rubber piece that you pulled out earlier. Put the odometer hole right back in there, and then it has those little tabs that it has the little tabs that just push into those tabs on there. So you'll just slide that in there, push that in, Fill up the hole. Make sure that you got all the screws snug down. Just give it a little bit of a tug. Everything's nice and stable. Then you can go ahead and put your column beauty cover back on. Slide it back into place. Snap it down. I usually start in the back and work my way forward whenever I'm snapping it down. Once everything is snapped into place, then go ahead and reinstall all the 3 bolts that you pulled out underneath here to loosen it up. And you may want to go ahead and check it just to make sure that everything works properly on it. See there, everything's lighting up. Turn signals are working. Everything seems to be good. And there you have it. You've just changed out your gauge cluster on your Nissan Altima. So anyway guys, I hope my video helped you out today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, like it, share it, leave your comments below. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.